And we told him, I don't remember what we said to him. Well, what are you going to say? You know, like, it's not working, man. You know, can you please haul yourself up? You know, and maybe go to rehab or something and get rid of this monkey on your fucking back. Words to that effect. And he was, you know, you can imagine.
Denial.
Yeah, well, not so much denial as like, fuck you. Fuck you, I like this. I like them. He was not very polite to anybody. You know. It was like we weren't really friends anymore. Virgman, you're only a drummer, man. What do you got to say? I didn't say that.
But a great drummer.
Yeah, you know, and he probably said something to me too, but I don't remember what it was. I blocked it out. But strangely, and we'll see why a little later in this story, he eventually agreed to go to rehab, and he said, okay, I'll get in the car and I'll go right now. Okay, good. So, you know, I'm going to say, all right, Jerry, I'll ride with you, man. We'll do this together, brother, you and me. You know? And so we get in the car and we go across the Richmond Bridge, and we're on Interstate 80 to Oakland, where the place is. And now suddenly I realized we were going like 110 miles an hour. Garcia doesn't have a seat belt on, or he should. I probably don't either, because that was before seat belts. You know? And then he'll change a lane and he slams on the brakes and just barely misses. And then he looks over at me and he says, "Hey, having a good time?" And later on, when I thought back about it, I imagined him paying me back for all the times I scared him when I was driving him around in Palo Alto in the early days, because that's how I would drive. I was like channeling Neil Cassidy before I even met her. But and at the same time, here's Jerry trying to channel Neil Cassidy, and Jerry's no Neil Cassidy as a driver. So, and it was, I mean, it scared the shit out of me. And that's very rarely happens to me in a car. I don't know, for some reason. Anyway, we finally get there, you know, and I wipe the sweat off my face. We go inside, and Jerry goes inside, and then he comes back out and he says, "Well, I signed up and I'm going in 2 weeks." It was like the whole thing was a scam to get us to shut the fuck up. But he got a good scare into me on the way, so that was kind of cool. But then later actually, and he was supposed to go in about 2 weeks or something like that. And then on that day, he went to Golden Gate Park in his brand new BMW that he got from some dope dealer, which was probably compromised in many ways before he even got into it.
No registration.
You know, it was probably somebody probably gave the dealer the car in return for, you know, and all of that. And so he's in the car with all his stash, all his little thousands of little bindles, and he's doing up everything he can before he goes into, because he actually was going to go into rehab. What a good guy. You know? He actually was going to do it. And but then the cops came by and they saw the car with no registration, or they ran the plates and there's no registration, and here's this guy and they're going. So they busted him and they collected all his dope and they took him to jail, and me and Parrish went down to get him out. And we get him out, we get in the car that we came in, and I turn to him and I say, "So, you all ready to go to rehab?" They're waiting for you, huh? And he turns to me, and this is the most touching thing I think he ever said to me. He says, "Please don't make me go to jail twice in one day." What do you?
So Jerry did not make it to rehab that day.
Not that day. But he did eventually.
Yeah, he did go in '85 and made an effort to start to clean up, and he was starting to lose a little bit of weight, and that's when he also started doing his artwork. North Sage was bringing him art supplies, and it was sort of the beginning of the Jerry Garcia art zeitgeist that we all know of. So, the 20th anniversary of the Grateful Dead, everybody was really wondering, are they really going to celebrate anything? It hadn't really been talked about, and the Greek Theater seemed like the obvious place, and there was the banner hanging up there, and there was
we made a video about it too.
And so they came out the first night and they played Sgt. Pepper's, it was 20 years ago today. So fans started realizing something was going to happen. And I think it was the first night, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had a bunch of equipment problems. And so the band came out and they played 4 or 5 songs. And there were speakers blowing up and feedback and all this crazy stuff. And so the band left the stage. And everybody's like, is that the end of the first set? Nobody really knew. Then 20 minutes later, they came back and they played 4 more songs. And then they left and took another break. And everybody's like, is that the second set? Like, people didn't know.
Second set, third set, what the fuck?
And then they came out again, after a regular 45-minute break or whatever it was. And they started what would be the third set or maybe the second set, depending on who was saying what. And they opened it up with Morning Dew. So it was a pretty epic night. And so the Greek Theater was obviously a very magical place for the band and the fans and everybody, and coming out and opening a second set with Morning Dew was pretty mind-blowing. I'm sure they were scraping some of the Deadheads off the floor with a spatula. And but Phil is going to tell us a little story about a little prank that him and Brent pulled on Bob at the Greek Theater, I believe, during these same shows.
Well, during that period, Bob was the short shorts period.
And also the rock star.
Short shorts and rock star period.
Big moves.
It was all about the moves. And during Sugar Magnolia, during the part before the Sunshine Daydream thing comes in, he had his transmitter on his guitar, so he wasn't wired to the amps like we were. So he would run out, during that long jam that we would do before the Sunshine Daydream kicked in. He would run out to the front of the stage and he'd run back and forth, kind of like Mick Jagger. At one point, he started extending that, and he started actually climbing the scaffolding and hanging off it and playing his guitar. Really showbiz, really dramatic. So, and I don't know. It got to be a little old because he just kept.
He had been doing this in previous shows, kind of doing the scaffolding thing and running around. So Phil and Brent were sort of aware of him, like disappearing for a bit during shows.
Yeah, and this is so wonderful. It's so Grateful Dead because it was so completely spontaneous. So we're playing along. We're playing along. And Bob's out there and he's running back around the stage, posing in costume, crashing his guitar. And then he starts climbing up the scaffolding. And this time he went up a little higher than he had been doing before. And I don't know what sparked it, but Brent and I looked at each other and we just closed it off. While he's still up there. Bum, bum, ba-tom. He got down pretty damn fast, I'll tell you. Because there's only like 2 bars between that big note and the start of Sunshine Daydream. So he got down there pretty damn fast. And we said, we're going 2, 3, 4, bum, ba-dum, dum, ba-dum. And he's there for the very next vocal entry. He didn't make the first one, but he made the second. Oh boy, we made him sweat.
Never trust a prankster. All right, everybody, 1985. We're in for a good show tonight. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the evening. Welcome to the mid-'80s, the year of short shorts.